Hello, welcome back to my tea house. For today's cup of tea, we'll be taking a closer look at my GenCon tier list and exploring some of the decks that I think you will run into or you should consider taking to our first regionals coming up in the next 2 weeks. Now, the most simplest answer and most simplest thing that I can tell you is take the deck that you are most comfortable with, that you have the most practice with into all the matchups that you feel confident with, because playing over webcam, playing in your locals, completely different environment, different feeling, and different energy than pulling up to a regional or national event and having that person across from you staring at you like, I'm going to whoop your butt. Now that that's out of the way, let's take a closer look at this tier list right here. Now, I've gone ahead and divvied up the tier list through what I think will win GenCon, what I think will top cut, meaning top 16, and most likely to increase your chances of getting your national invites, as well as the top 32. We do have still need to practice, and this is going to be filled with the Full Metal Alchemist decks. After some of the practice that me and my team have been doing, and from things that we've seen and talked about with some of our Japanese friends, I think the decks might be able to top 32, but I don't think they're making as big as an impact to our scene as a lot of people think it will. And then last but not least, go home, sip some tea. Like, why are you taking this? Now, you're going to see some decks in there that obviously I think people can perform well with and top cut with, especially if you are taking it as a comfort pick. I want to start off first with our Win GenCon list. I have 3 decks up here, starting off with the most likely to win GenCon in my opinion and what I think to be best deck in format, Squad Zero. Everyone was anticipating Volume 2 JJK, Volume 2 Bleach, because we were getting additional cards. There were rumors of getting the Zero Drop Orihime. We ended up getting the not Zero Drop Orihime, the Zero Drop Rukia. We did end up getting the 2 Drop Orihime, which will help Yakua players, and the Rukia Bleach Ichigo players that want to focus on that 5 drop. But we also got a new variant, Squad Zero, which has a lot of consistency, a lot of removal, and a lot of threat and pressure when it comes to swinging on the board. Like I said last year for Orlando, you want to be able to take decks that are kind of toolkitty, that kind of have an answer for everything. And what I like to say is we are currently in the heavy removal meta, meaning most decks have an answer or a way to answer your board, and it becomes a situation where both you and your opponent are just clearing each other's boards, and if one other person can't answer that, then you're kind of shit out of luck. The standout card in this deck list to me is the 4-drop Ichibe, as well as the Sight. This just allows you to look 4 deep, set up your next couple turns, and allows you to get free draw advantage. When you pair that with the Senjumaru and the new Senjumaru removal, I know some people don't like it, but in my opinion, it's a strong card, bro. I can ditch 3 and draw 3, especially if I pair that with the Ichibe or the Sight. I'm not going to say the Sight's name because I always forget it for some reason. It just gives you a lot of advantage. And I will say right now that if you are in the mirror match with this deck, it's going to come down to deck building. There are, I want to say, 2 major variants, but there are some weird 3s where people are putting Renji in the list. I don't know why you put Renji in there when you could just put the new 4-drop Ichigo, but to each their own. If it's their favorite character, favorite card, they like it. Who am I to yuck their yum? You need to understand both matchups, because whether or not I think one matchup is stronger than the other, they both hold a threat. They both do a lot of removal, and they are both something you need to worry about. Whether it is the fully Squad Zero package and noticing that your opponent has the 0-drop, I forget his name, but he allows you to get a purple card back from the graveyard. You need to be aware of that kind of stuff. Now, if you want to compete against Squad Zero, for those that don't want to take the deck and want to understand how to play against it, you want to try and chip them down with your weenies, keeping your valuable cards in the back and then pushing them up at the right time to make big swings, because I guarantee you the minute you put something of value to the front, it's getting cleared that next turn. So you need to understand the fundamentals of rotating your cards up and back. If you do have the steppers, you need to understand that removing the raid targets might be in your favor when it comes to this deck. If you can offset an Ichigo potential raid or a Senjumaru potential raid because they're not seeing their raid pieces, you're in a better position than most people. If you want to go up against this deck, you just need to understand your fundamentals, understand the push and pull of it all, and you need to be able to compete with the removal. Know your opponent, know the cards in the deck, and hopefully you will be fine. The deck isn't invincible. There are some decks in the top cut that you can take, like yellow Saitama, that has protection from removal, like green Saitama in the top 32 list that you could take that has protection, right? BP reduction will not work. Not BP reduction. Protection from BP reduction won't work against this deck, right? So the Kenpachi isn't really an answer, but 5k bodies will help you. It'll force your opponent to get rid of more cards, but if you're going up against the Ichigo variant, then that Getsugo is just gonna hit just as hard, right? So I want to move on to the second deck here, Sukuna. If I'm being honest, I think that either Sukuna or Squad Zero will win GenCon. I think both decks are extremely strong, and both decks have crazy high roll capability. Some of the decks that are in top cut are only there because they have some of the best high roll capabilities in the game, but if you understand how to play against them, they're not as scary as you think they would be. Now, when it comes to Squad Zero, Sukuna, and Code Guos, if these decks high roll, it feels like you're punching a brick wall. Now, with the Sukuna build, we have the new color Yuji, which gives you another raid target and which only costs 1 action point. You have the new 5/1 Yuji, which I honestly think is a standout card. Having another raid target that's a 4k body that reduces the cost of my Sukuna and also gives me a draw 1 trash 1, I think is a strong addition if you want to include that. Now, with this variant, you will see a lot of people trying to do the control factor, and even though the list is a lot slower, if they get there, it is scary. So you need to understand how to play against that matchup. You need to understand that some people might sneak in a 1 of or a 2 of a 7 drop. So pay attention to the fingers in your opponent's life. Ask your opponent what's in their graveyard. I cannot express how many times that people get thrown off guard just because their opponent's like, what's in your graveyard? Can I count your graveyard? How many fingers in your graveyard? How many specials in your graveyard? How many finals? Okay, you need to get into this habit because these things are important, especially again if you're going up against the Toto matchup. We will get there. I think that the Nanami variant is the stronger variant personally, and that is just because the old Nanami is basically 2 blocks for free. If you want to throw in the new Nanami, it is just as strong, forcing your opponent not to be able to attack with one of their key threats is going to be super strong. And again, with this deck, it is a very reactive deck, but has the potential to go on the aggressive side, to be extremely aggro and low to the ground if they want to. And that's something that all 3 of these decks have in common that are in first place. They're toolkits, they have answers, they have the bounce Yuji, right? They have the impact with the Sukuna, they have the stun if they want to with a 5 drop. If they run the 6 drop, they have the bounce. If they run the 7 drop, they have the board reduction, kill a body, discard a card, and a 5k body with impact. And on top of that, they have Shrine. Most people are probably going to be on a 1 of Shrine, so this is the moment that I will say sight killing cards are now important. 2 of the top decks, in my opinion, run sights that are key to what they want to do. So if you take that 1 of Asuna, if you take that Toto, sight cards are important. So if you can add a 1 of or a 2 of sight removal in your deck, practice with that. We're going to talk about the third and final deck, Code Guos. Code Guos is still strong. still scary. The only reason why I think Code Geass has slightly dropped down from best deck in format is purely because the other two have improved upon their consistency and have improved upon their removal. Code Geass is always going to be a scary and serious threat because it has one of the best defensive raids in the Gwain, and each removal also swings with impact. So, you know, there's nothing more that I can say. If you don't know how to play against this deck yet, or don't know how to play against it already, you might be ish out of luck, but this is a deck you will see, and it is a deck you need to understand the lines and combos. Me personally, I've considered taking out the 0-drop Diehard that I love so much to look scry at the top, and honestly put back into C2, because last year there were a couple lines that I couldn't be able to pull off because I didn't have that extra energy. But cracking that C2 at the right moment warrants you for some crazy lines, in for some insane damage, and it's something I've been mulling over. Diehard allows me to see what's next, and it allows me to get out of a bricky situation. But again, C2 also allows you to get out of that bricky situation. It just depends on what non-triggers you want to put in your deck. Again, if I'm putting a card that has no triggers in the deck, they have to be of great value, and I think those two cards are worth the hassle of throwing in a 2 of. Moving on now, we're going to take a look at Top Cut. Top Cut might be controversial for some people. There might be decks in here that people don't agree with. My reasoning for putting the first 3, green Vermilion, yellow Saitama, and green Lancelot into Top Cut is purely because they have some of the best high roll factors in the game. And if you are playing against them and they're seeing it that day, it's almost impossible. Some might wonder why Vermilion is at the front of Top Cut instead of Toto. Again, Toto, I love Toto. I love him so much, but oh my god. Vermilion is at the front purely because she's a 5k body, and you're gonna see that I put a lot of weight on 5k bodies, because there's a lot of decks that can't deal with 5k bodies. If you can't deal with a 5k body, you're, you know, ish out of luck. I wanted to take Red Asta. I think Red Asta is extremely strong, but it crumbles going up against a deck that consistently has 5k bodies. And if you don't see your removal and that 5k sticks, then what are you going to do? Turn off the 5k's ability? It's extremely hard to swing over now that we don't have that double energy Asta. But Vermilion has one of the craziest high rolls, because if that 5-drop sticks, she's also able to spit out the Yamis that swing double damage, 5k double, right? If she wants to boost them, and she has the ability to just spit out these big bodies, stand them right there that turn, and swing at you for crazy amount of damage on top of having impact. So now you're forced to either take the double with impact and then just block out the Yamis, or you're forced to block Mommy Vermilion, right? Take the 1 impact and then just take the impact from her brother, I forget his name, who gains impact if he's buffed 1000, right? The deck can be slightly slow, but if they throw in a tech of like Bird and now they're stunning your stuff, bro, what are you gonna do? Right? They have a lot of energy generation, so if you see your Toto late and you're unable to swap their energy out early and brick them, you're screwed, right? Now, moving on, yellow Saitama. A lot of people think this is one of the best decks in format. A lot of people, I think, don't understand how to play against it, and it shows. It really shows. Once you learn how to play against this deck, not really afraid about it. The thing about this deck is, if they high roll, they see their Saitamas, they have the Genos that can play out a body, they're seeing their color triggers, you're seeing your removal and you can't remove anything off their board. If you're playing up against that, then you're ish out of luck, right? But if you press the issue like you're playing against a green Saitama or a Karapika or a Vermilion, some of these decks that take a while to build up, right? And you weenie rush a little bit and you have those chum blockers that can block the double damage, just remove the bodies on their board and swing face. It's quite literally that simple. And you guys know how I feel about Yellow Saitama. I was one of the biggest haters and supporters of the deck when it first came out, because it's ridiculous. What do you mean I hit special out of life and you have hella Saitamas on board that can't be removed? But at the end of the day, majority of the Saitamas either go back to the energy line, get bottom decked, or they freeze. And what happens when all those Saitamas leave? You have a wide open board. So again, it is about your fundamentals. It is about tempo. It is about knowing when to rotate, when to block. A lot of you guys don't know how to block. The Japanese players, the Chinese players, all of them, they know how to block. Okay? And once Attack on Titan comes out, if you're not blocking that first swing, you might be, and that's some skill that takes time and understanding. A lot of people just need to learn the basics, and a lot of people need to read up on the cards. Moving on to Lancelot. I don't really need to explain Lancelot. We all know Lancelot. The high roll is stupid, but at the same time, if they're not seeing their energy pieces and whatnot, and you're able to establish your board, get your swings in, the game should be fine. But if you're going up against a Lancelot that has a full board of energy, you're scared to swing at their life, because you don't want to give them an 8-drop out of life knowing that they have one in hand with a double Varus. It just does not feel good. So another thing I want to add on is impact negate will be important going into this event. A lot of us early on in the game, we're not running impact negates because we didn't need to. You need to now. You need to. That one impact negate might help save your life. It might help save your life. Now, moving forward from that, I need to look at my cheat sheet. We have Karapika. Again, Karapika, self-explanatory. I think it is still the gatekeeper. A lot of people, just like now, were sleeping on it in Orlando. They're sleeping on it now. I'm telling you, if you're sleeping on Karapika, you're sleeping on a 5k snipe removal body. That's your fault for going X2. Now, Asta. This deck is strong. It rivals Code Geass in my opinion with removal if you are running the Noel, because now, again, you have your force block, your 2 of, right? You have your 4k removal, which is the pop at 3k, and then you have your strip ability, which is your neg 1000, right? And you have good impact, you have good pressure, a great defense raid. It has everything except the ability to consistently get over a 5k body. If you don't see your Knot, if you don't see your Yami, if you're playing some other weird boosting card, you're not getting over that 5k body, and it's just a struggle, bro. It's honestly just a struggle. That being said, the deck is still scary, and it still has great capabilities to sneak into the top cut circuit. The last deck that I want to talk about before just glossing over some other decks is Toto. Toto has a special place in my heart. I think Toto actually deserves to be in Win GenCon, and I think has the capability to win GenCon. Same with my teammates. A lot of people that I've talked to think the deck is strong, but at the same time, for how consistent the deck is, it's just not consistent enough. Now, you're going to see Toto. I should have put this deck at the top just purely off of you're going to see it. You need to understand how to establish your energy line. You need to understand that you probably shouldn't put something up in the front line until your energy line is established going up into a Toto. But then at the same time, you run the issue of them just raiding the Toto anyways and swinging 3 or 4 to your face before you even have a body up there. If they don't see the Toto early game and they see the Toto late game and they see the Mekumaru early game, you're chilling. Just play to your strengths, rotate, make sure your energy is established. Make sure your energy is always established. Otherwise, you are going to get yourself in a sticky situation. Don't be as greedy as you would against any other deck when playing against Toto, because one mistake and the game's over. You can't play any cards. Now, Toto has many strengths. Just like the Nanami, you have the removal that bottom decks, so preventing key cards, especially in the mirror match, from getting played out. One strength that Toto has is being able to raid early, swing, do face. Once your Toto gets removed, Goodwill Hunting, play it back. Sometimes I like to discard a Mekumaru and just have it sitting in trash, knowing that I can Goodwill and grab it back. Toto has probably one of the best sight removals in the game, as well as impact, right? So you can either remove a 35 body or you can remove a sight, meaning going into the Sukuna matchup, not only can you mess up their energy, you can get rid of their 1 of Shrine, possibly 2 of, but again, if they're running 2 of, you could pop it. Now with Squad 0, it's a little up in the air. Some of them are probably running 3, 4 ofs, 2 ofs, you don't know. But again, being able to disrupt that consistent draw factor that they have is going to be very, very strong and very key. Like, if you want to take that deck, by all means, I think it can win GenCon. My only gripe is if you go up against a Toto in the mirror matchup and you don't see your Toto, again, you're screwed. Some people might tech in the Toji. I think that a 2 of or a 1 of Toji is strong, but at the same time, you can't search it. And at the same time, I might rather play a Toto or something in a situation where you're playing the Toji. It is a 5k body and helps block in the mirror matchup. I personally like the 4-2 Miwa. Play the Muta, then you could drop the Miwa, pop a 4k. You could drop the Miwa early, pop a 3k body blocker, swing 3 because you have the Toto out. There's some cool things that you can do. I think that the meta is balanced. I do think skill expression is here, but RNG is a factor, and the reason why these decks are in top cut and win GenCon is purely because they are more consistent than others. They have a higher potential and a higher ceiling of high rolling against you, and if the pilot understands the matchup and understands how to properly play against their opponent, you know, you're kind of ish out of luck. I want to talk about the Full Metal Alchemist decks. You should know how to play against them, know what they do, and be informed, but I don't think you need to be scared of them. I think that Greed is pretty strong. It's a 5k must block with a 2-drop that can't be blocked by 4k or higher and has potential to do crazy things. I think that you can top 32 with Greed. I do think you might be able to squeeze into a top cut depending on your matchups. It's the same thing with the Elric brothers. Great graveyard recursion. You're able to recur your nullify impactor. People that are playing against you with heavy impact decks, you just block with it and then play it back out the next turn if you have the combo. And you're able to rest the body and activate it. Some cool, neat things, but at the same time, their BPs are at 3,500, so they are pretty low. I think Mustang is cool. It's great, has great removal. I think that it could top 32 purely because people might not know how to play against the matchup or the deck. A lot of people are hyped about the Kimberly deck. I think the Kimberly deck is bait, personally. I think you could do some cool things, but again, into a heavy removal meta that we are in. Father, I think Father is great. I love mill decks. You see me with Green Saitama. I think it's too slow. I think you are able to get through your deck and see everything, but you're not really pressuring your opponent or doing anything during the matchup, which kind of feels bad. If we look at the top 32, some decks that I do want to point out, Blue Bleach. I think Blue Bleach is just a high skill ceiling. I think that you can do some crazy things with Blue Bleach, but if you're running a pure Ichigo package, the 5k caveat, right? Your removal doesn't just blanket get over a 5k. You have to raid the Ichigo, then use it, but you'd rather use it to double swing. Your opponent's probably not going to block it. And then if you hit a trigger, it feels bad. They do have the Ichigo that can't be blocked by 4k or higher. And if you ditch the Zangatsu, it can only be blocked by 35, which is cool. I think the Rukia, the double action point version, is stronger, but a beat too slow. And then I think if you merge the two, that's where the deck really shines. It's just draw one, trash one until you find your answer. Most people are either playing the Rukia removal, so then you're not getting the full capability of the Ichigo, and some people are playing the Ichigo removal. Some people are doing a split. I don't think anyone's quite yet found the answer. And who knows, maybe it's Gen Con that we see the one person that just has a high skill expression with the deck and shows us why the deck is scary. Again, I do think there are some crazy lines with that deck. I just don't think anyone has figured it out yet. So top 32, I think it can get there, but against heavy removal, against consistent 5Ks, I just don't know. The last deck that I want to highlight out of the top 32 list is actually Blue SAO, ALO. I'm gonna tell you right now, if you do not know how to play against this deck, if you haven't seen someone play this deck at a high ceiling, you are fucked. You can only block this deck with 3500 BP. Most of us aren't running 3500 BPs in our deck. I made it, me and my team and I made it explicitly important to run 3500 BPs in our deck because there are a couple decks that do that. Blue Ichigo, Yellow Greed, ALO. And even if you board wipe this deck, it can refill its board just like that with a bunch of 4Ks and bodies that can't be blocked by 300 or less or 4,000 or more. The deck does have a high skill ceiling to properly run, and it also takes a bit of RNG. If you know how to play it at a high level, the RNG goes down a little bit, but if you don't see it, you don't see it. If you see it, please play your raids, your 4-drop raids, vanilla, stop the onslaught, get ahead of it. This is a deck that I think a lot of people will be sleeping on and is secretly my secret pick for top cut and potentially, dare I say, winning it. But I don't think it will win it because, again, into the heavy removal decks that I talked about, they'll just slap it to the side. But I do think that someone could top cut with this deck, just like homeboy that surprised everyone with Pizza after everyone said Pizza was awful last year. I think this is a deck you need to be aware of, you need to understand how to play against, and you need to be ready for it, because that one person from the middle of Massachusetts, the middle of nowhere, that pulls up with this deck and just slaps you around is going to enjoy it. I think that covers everything. Let me know your thoughts and opinions below. How would you rate it? Share the, take a screenshot unsolicited, share it with your friends, your peers, share it through the Reddits, everything like that. Let's have a discussion. Do you agree with some of my takes? Do you agree with the list? What would you swap around? What would you do? I would love for you guys to follow me on Twitter. I want to tweet more about the game as well as Riftbound and other games moving forward and really build up that community on Twitter. So I would love to see you guys tweet your tier list to me, and I'll leave my comments below. Cuss me out, tell me I'm stupid, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm trash, I haven't even topped yet. But there's one thing we can agree: we have our competitive season. It's going to be an amazing year, lots of surprises. Thank you for stopping by my tea house. I hope you enjoyed your tea break. I'll catch you on the next one.